And here I go to start.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Those of you coming in. If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and start putting those in the chat. I'm Jacob. I'm on the support team. I'm going to be leading the lunch and learn today. So let's wait a couple minutes and see if any come in. All right. I see one from Andy Smith. I have a form with a data grid and a data grid advanced and a flow which loads it so the user can CRUD the data into an Oracle table. The C, R, and U work using both grids, but if the user deletes grid rows, D for delete, how can I delete those from the Oracle table? Greg, would we be able to unmute Andy and hear a little bit more about this specific issue?
Yep, Andy, you are allowed to talk.
Okay, hi.
Hey.
Um, yeah, so I have this data grid. I have a data table in Oracle. Um, and I want to form that um that allows me to um add and change and delete. So I've created a form. It has a data grid in it, an add button, a remove button. All of that works. I've gotten it to add new ones. I've gotten it to change existing ones. But if I delete from the grid, they don't get deleted from the table because the grid doesn't keep the rows that are deleted because they're deleted. So
Mm,
how do I tell it to delete from the table the ones that I've deleted from the grid? Do I really have to go through a huge double loop comparing the initial snapshot with the updated snapshot and find the ones that are missing and say, okay, these are the ones that get deleted?
yeah, thanks for clarifying on that. How is the connection made? Is that just the standard database integration?
Yeah, database table definition.
Hmm. Okay. So I don't have a database, or at least not an Oracle database I can integrate with immediately on hand. Just thinking through this out loud.
Well, what do you when you put up the form, okay, the
Hmm.
form you have to have a list of, the data type records that goes into the form. And that I can get. All right. And then when the form is done and you hit the action button, I have a list that comes out of it, um,
Okay.
that has all the edited records. So I guess to back up a little bit, once I have that huge list of edited records, what am I supposed to do with it? I've been trying to use the insert or update step, which of course doesn't include delete, but I pull in the delete step and it wants to know which ones to delete, but the grid doesn't supply me those because they were
Mm,
deleted.
okay. Yeah. So looking what I concur with what Greg is saying in chat. I don't have a Oracle table handy where I can immediately go in and check that. Would you like me to fill out a support ticket on your behalf, and someone from the support team will reach out to you regarding this. Would that be fine?
Yeah, I guess. I just thought it was kind of a simple basic thing that a data grid is supposed to be able to do.
Yeah,
How
I
does
would
one
think
do
so.
this?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure without that might be an Oracle specific thing. It may not. But I
Is it?
don't have, yeah, I don't have a Oracle table that handy that I would be able to throw together something real quick for that. That sounds like something that
But
might
okay,
involve a little bit more testing.
all right, but my point is a general. I mean, it
Yeah.
really shouldn't matter what database I use. I should be able to have a data grid where I
Hmm.
can add and change and delete. But what do I need to do afterward to actually add new records to the table, change existing records in the table, and delete existing records from the table? I mean, what's the general? I thought there was a general kind of simple way to do that. A
Yeah.
built-in code, low code, effortless, practically effortless way
Hmm.
to do that.
Um, yeah, so I haven't used CRUD actions enough to say off the top of my head. I can try with my local Postgres install. Let's see if we can
Well, again,
find
it
something.
shouldn't
This,
matter.
yeah.
It shouldn't matter. But if you, if I pull in 5 records from a table and I delete 2 of them, leaving 3, how does it know which 2 I want deleted, and how do I delete the 2 from the table that I deleted from the grid?
Yeah. When you created the database integration, did it have
Oh yeah,
did you have all these checked? Okay, so
yeah,
there I do see
yep,
delete there.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I know how to
Okay.
use the delete step, but what the delete
Yeah.
step wants is a the primary keys of the record to delete, but they don't they don't come from the grid because they were deleted from the grid. So again, to back up, my question is, you have this grid, you add to it, change it, delete from it.
Hmm.
How are you, what's the, what's the simple designed way to sync what's in the grid with what's in the table? I mean, do I really have to go through and compare before and after editing, field by field, row by row, and figure all that out? Really? There's no just simple built-in way to do this?
Yeah. I again that's not something I specifically know off the top of my head. I haven't spent too much time going in depth with integrations, but yeah, that does sound fishy. Like there's something going on there.
There-
Um,
There's got to be a better way.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
I concur, even if I don't know what that is off the top of my head. Um, yeah, I'll go ahead and after we're done here, fill out a support ticket on your behalf, and we'll follow up with you. Does that sound good?
And Andy, let me just, this is Greg, also just so
Hi,
I'm
Greg.
clear. So after the data bridge, how are you saving the new data into, after you've done any editing, deleting, removing, whatever it may be, how are you saving that to the database table? Like with a save entity step or batch insert entities, anything like that?
Oh, just um, insert or update,
Okay.
and that works, except for the
Mhm.
deletion, except for the deletion part, which I understand because the step is insert or update, right? Um, oh, and then the other thing, here's the other question. See, we have these tables that have auditing fields in them, um, which tell you who's the last one to make a change and when that was changed. Okay. So if the user loads all of the table into a grid and then changes one cell in a record which isn't a primary key cell, and then says, okay, update, it's only the one record that he changed that ought to be updated. But instead, what happens is it literally updates the entire table so that the auditors look and they think that I just updated the entire table right now.
Mm,
And that's wrong.
right.
So once again, do I actually have to write code to compare the initially loaded table data versus the grid edited table data and figure out row by row, cell by cell, which are missing from one or the other to decide to add or delete, and then also which cells are different or all the same to figure out which ones to change, and then take those three sets, the added, the changed, the deleted, and feed them to an insert step, an update step, and a delete step? Do I really have to do that?
Yeah, I hope not, that's the answer. I know it's not a good answer for
Yeah,
you right now, but
I,
I feel like we need
I
to
thought
look at
there's
this.
this, yeah, I thought there's a simple built-in way to kind of do this. And I thought that, I mean, last week I joined a lunch and learn. I've never designed a form before. And so I asked, what's the way to to do this sort of thing. And they told me about a data repeater and a data grid and a data grid advanced. I've been messing with those or whatever. But you know, I
Hey,
thought there was kind of a built-in way to do this.
hey,
Yeah,
Andy.
go
Yeah,
ahead. I think VT
yeah,
wants, I've allowed VT to talk and he might be able to shed some light to this. Go ahead, VT.
yeah. And have you heard about the external entity, which basically you can create your connection to database and treat it like an entity inside of decisions, where you should be able to build dashboards and reports and custom actions where you can multi-select or single select and update, delete, whatever.
Wait a minute.
So
What's it called?
External entity.
An external entity.
Yeah, basically it's something that does not live in decisions database, but could be treated as an entity inside of decisions based on the database connection.
yeah, that could be something to explore. Again, I think what we have to do is really look at what's happening. And that's why this is good for a support ticket to look and see, Andy, what exactly you're doing. Because VT, I mean, that could be a good possibility to work with an external entity, but it just really depends on how you're deleting it in the data grid and how it's being saved. And
I'm
finding a way to specifically just so that one cell, like you say, is being changed, not the whole tape, not everything.
the way I'm deleting it in the grid is that I have an add button and a delete button. And the data grid knows that this is the add button and this is the delete button. So when I run the flow and it pops up the form and it loads the data into the grid, I put my cursor on one row and I click delete and it vanishes from the grid. That's it.
Also, on the advanced data grid that you use, if you use something like active form flow, that should, even if you delete, that should keep your selected role. So you should be able to see that role and based on that, build your logic to delete that from your database.
Really, because I haven't seen that. I run it, and when I click delete, the row disappears.
Well, what I mean is that are you using active form flow or you trying to do everything after you submit the form?
I have no idea what you mean. I have a simple form. It has a data grid, it has an add button, it has a remove button, and then it has two buttons on the panel below which say update and cancel. So those are the two outcomes.
But
When I hit cancel, I do nothing, and when I hit update, it goes to an insert or update step.
so after the form is closed.
Yeah. For the interest of time, Andy, we're going to get that support ticket filled out for you. And we'll follow up. This sounds like something that might involve some live troubleshooting. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll be following up with you and get that taken care of.
Okay. I really thought there was a simple built-in way to do it. It sounds like everything else to be so overcomplicated.
Yeah. I empathize. I apologize. All right. It looks like we have another question from Brian Kim. I wrote an update query and it works in SQL and on the create step, but it is erroring out when I use it in a flow. Brian, Greg, are we able to unmute Brian? Hey, Brian, can you provide a little more context on this?
Yes. So we are creating an application that will allow the user to make edits on this form, and we're using an external entity, so we're not saving any data onto decisions, and we're having the user like read data live from SQL, but we want the user to also be able to make edits to the data. And I created an update query through decisions, and when I tested it, I see that it like works and it just says like results 0 because I don't have like I'm not putting in a primary ID when I'm using it in testing, but when I put it into a flow and like have like inputs into the inputs that we put in on the query, every time I run it, it errors out. It just says input data, input values, no data. And I was wondering why that is.
Input values, no data. Okay. Are you using parameterized queries to pass information in?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. What is the database on the back end? Because I believe different databases use different parameterized query markers. I'm not entirely sure.
What do you mean by what kind of database are we using?
Where's this entity stored? Is it like Microsoft SQL, Postgres, Oracle?
Yeah, Microsoft SQL.
Okay. Let me. I can never remember all of these, but fortunately, that's why we have our documentation site. So we're using the @ symbol to
Yes.
signify. Okay. I was hoping that would be it. That was. Okay. Yeah. So let me see if I can set up something along those lines. Let's see if we can recreate this real quick. So we want an integration. It's an integration. Greg, help me out. I'm blanking on how to do a parameterized query. Or actually, wait, no, I have the documentation. We want to add a query. Boom, there we go. Let's see. Default value. Never remember off the top of my head what a default value is. Let's see.
Hey, Brian, can you drop, excuse me, can you drop your query into the chat?
Yeah.
Let's go with account ID as the default value. We run the query. It doesn't like my space. Okay. All right, so we have results. Let's see if we can use this in a flow.
It's literally just useful stuff. Yeah. Well, and it seems like it would be a good.
Greg, remind me where the step is to run a parameterized query. What's that? Integration, internal services?
That's where I would look first.
All right, database integrations.
Let me search for that. while
Jeremy
you-
says integration database. Thanks, Jeremy. Let's see.
No, you're close.
Integration database. Run define queries. That. Ah, yep.
And Brian, just to be clear, when you're running the query, you're testing it. Are you able to get results when you test it before you go into the flow and decisions?
It runs without an error, but it says because it's an update query that like we won't really get results, you know.
Okay.
When I do this, when I run a select query, we get results.
You do get results. Okay.
So the select part works fine.
Yeah.
Another thing I've seen, do any of these columns have spaces or special characters? I can see your query because.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Brian, what's the error that you have in the flow?
Can you say that again?
What's the error that you have in the flow?
The error is it just
Thanks,
says
Jeremy.
like error running step execute query like error running update query error message conversion failed when converting date enter time from character string.
Oh, so that's daytime related?
I guess it could be.
It
I don't have
sounds
any
like,
run it.
yeah, it sounds like you have a daytime conversion error.
Okay, so does that mean because a column is in a datetime setting?
Sounds like.
So if we fix it, that we should be good.
We should try.
Yeah, you're talking about you said that the data type is a date time data type?
There in SQL, we have some columns that the data type is a date time.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think this might be something that we're gonna have to take a deeper look at as well.
If you trying to pass decisions datetime into the SQL datetime, you need to handle that because database type slightly different than C# type datetime.
So how would we do that?
You need to do it on the query.
We need to like change the date type in the query.
It might also be creating a custom type, and then having it select basically the output data type, so it knows what to do with the data. So it might be seeing the date time as a string or something. Instead, use select. So that could be a potential solution.
Could you walk me through how to do that?
Yeah. So it's under the return type, and normally data rows. I'm actually going to set a constant of account ID. Actually, you know what? Let's do a date. Let's do archive created on date.
Thing is, I don't even have the
Uh,
output on my thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jacob, I think the issue is not on the output, the issue is on the input.
okay. Yeah, so this is on the input. Is that what you're talking about? Or am I misunderstanding? Column created on date. Okay, so I think there's an issue with my query on this. Greg, do you have any ideas?
No, I'm not sure. I would have to look at this deeper. Yeah, why don't you, let's see, do we have your email address, Brian, that we can get back to you a little bit later after looking at this better?
I can send it again to chat.
Yeah, if you would, that would be appreciated.
Yeah.
And then we'll.
3 months later, just forgot it. I just never registered.
All right, great. We'll get a support ticket in on your behalf as well.
Okay, thank you.
Is Zoom gonna let me copy paste this? It is not. That's fine. I can manually type that. Okay.
Okay, am I good?
Yep, you're good.
All right, thank you.
Are there
When do you
any?
think I would hear back from you guys?
I'm going to fill out a support ticket immediately as soon as we're done with this. And
Okay.
then our just standard support SLA is within 24 hours. We will respond well before then. So you'll hear back from us very soon today.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Alrighty.
Bye.
All right. So we are almost at time. Does anybody have a quick 2-minute one? All right, then in that case, I think that's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining. And yeah, so tomorrow, Robert's gonna be doing lunch and learn, Wednesday, Jared, and then Thursday, Greg. VTIC, you have your hand raised. Is there something you wanted to add real quick?
No, thanks.
Okay. Yep. Just wanted to check before ending. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day.